مسرور يا بحر الهدى أرض التقى والنور جئناك نبغي بيعة نمضي بها للنور.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Dear viewers, may the peace and blessings of Allah be upon you. It's pleasing to once again welcome you to another episode of Domestic Issues and Their Solutions. It is a platform where we engage in lively review of this profound book titled Domestic Issues and Their Solutions. Therein, Hazrat Mirza Masroor Ahmad, the worldwide head of the Ahmadiyya Muslim community, may Allah be his helper, dealt with the issues and challenges which couples and spouses are facing in their marriages across the world, and it provides solutions to them based on Islamic teachings and guidance. Joining me to review the book on this show is Mr. Abbas Iromini Sahib. He is the General Secretary of the Ahmadiyya Muslim Jamaat of Nigeria, a retired banker who is currently working with the Federal University, Oye Ekiti State, here in Nigeria. Mr. Abbas Sahib, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
MashaAllah, it's a new day, a new show, and we are having you here once again to benefit from your insightful review as usual. MashaAllah. Barakallahu fi, dear viewers, if you are not having a copy of this book, all you need to do is to visit www.alislam.org as it is being displayed on the screen. Get it downloaded, have your seat, and follow every bit of the program to benefit, because the essence of it is that couples who are facing these challenges can learn ways out of these challenges to resolve issues and to experience true peace and happiness at home in their marriages. Mr. Basai, let us set the ball rolling.
Yes.
We are continuing to this show from chapter 3 of the book.
Page 36.
Yeah.
And the broad heading is Islam, a complete code of conduct, where His Holiness, Allah be His helper, says we should try to adopt in our lives all the changes that the promised Messiah on whom be peace wants to bring in us. There are numerous commandments given by Allah the Exalted in the Holy Quran. In places, just the term, "O believers, act upon this commandment," has been used. In other places, commandments are given addressing believing men and believing women separately. Wherever the term, "O believers, do this," is used, both men and women are addressed. Further, it is also elaborated that all commandments in the Holy Quran are for believing men and believing women. Therefore, try to implement them all, and if you act upon these good deeds, Allah the Exalted will bestow upon you eternal, life-giving rewards. Such rewards will fill blessings in your life in this world as well as in the hereafter. As a reviewer, I want to first of all let our listeners know that Uzur's pronouncement here looks general, not specifically addressing spouses here. And of course, since it's referring to commandments from the Holy Quran, where Allah will sometimes mention, "O believers," whether you are married or unmarried, you are young, you are old, as long as you belong to that setting of a believer, then the commandment that Allah will mention in that aspect of the Holy Quran is binding on us. There is this particular statement here where His Holiness said, it is also elaborated that all commandments in the Holy Quran for believing men and believing women must be followed. And that if all these good deeds are done, Allah the Exalted will bestow upon you eternal life-giving rewards. One would want to say this is like just paraphrasing the commandments of the Holy Quran. Like where Allah said, فَمَنْ يَعْمَلْ مِثْقَالَ ذَرَّةٍ خَيْرًا يَرَى. If you do, and whoever does an atom's weight of good, Allah says that person will see it. He will be rewarded. And elsewhere, Surah Al-Imran, that's chapter 3, verse 196, Allah says, "Inni la udi'u amala amilin minkun min dhakari and untha." I will not let to be lost any work of a worker among you, whether men, that means believing men or believing women. So His Holiness is drawing our attention to brace up, be prepared mentally and psychologically to ensure that all the commandments that are in the Holy Quran, none of it should we subordinate to either overlook and say, this is not so, especially where Allah also categorizes it, like it has been said. Sometimes you just say, "Oh, you believing men." Okay, restricted, confined. Or, "Oh, ye believing women." So where those categorizations are made, they are so explicit. But the general tone and the general guidance here is that we should be ready to abide by all the laws of the Holy Quran and not just overlook any of them, and which is good for all mankind and, of course, all believers worldwide.
MashaAllah, that's quite instructive. And in the opening passage, which you have quoted, the passage opens with, "We should try to adopt in our lives all the changes that the promised Messiah, on whom be peace, wants to bring in us." It should be known that the promised Messiah is the founder of the Ahmadiyya Muslim community, who claimed to be the promised Messiah, the Messiah promised for the revival of Islam in the latter days. And that claim is based on divine inspiration.
Sure.
MashaAllah. And when we look down towards the end of the page, His Holiness, may Allah be His helper, continued by saying that the Holy Quran is a perfect teaching. Learn it and act accordingly. Do not suffer from any inferiority complex. Rather, as I have mentioned, practice this teaching and call the world to it. Demonstrate such actions that, seeing your high moral standards, other women may seek guidance from you. I think this is quite instructive. Once again, His Holiness is saying that we have to make the Holy Quran recognize it as a perfect teaching, a book containing perfect teaching for us. And therefore, we must set it as our guiding principle in all affairs, all ramifications of matrimonial relationship. And to achieve this is to learn it. So His Holiness said, learn it and act upon accordingly. So husband and wife must recognize the fact that the Holy Quran is the basis, the fundamental basis of our life. I mean, the direction we are to channel our life, it has to be the direction which the Holy Quran has pointed out for us. And that, for example, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, in his guidance, he said, we should be reading the Quran at home. Wives and husbands and children, they should establish the learning of the Quran at home and the reading of it and the practice of it. It's said that a house wherein the Quran is not recited, yakillu khayruhu, good will be reducing, will be little, yakillu khayruhu, wa yakthuru sharuhu, even inside the house will be prevailing, will be multiplying. Wa yadiku rizquhu, provision of God will become narrow. But when you turn it up, the other side, it means that everything positive will be taking place. So it's very, very important here. His Holiness, may Allah be his helper, continued by saying that the women of the world may come to you with this question, though we are advanced in worldly knowledge, and apparently we are spending our lives freely, but still we cannot obtain peace of mind and heart's contents. There is dissonance within us, and our families are at odds. And after some time, the gulf of disparities between husbands and wives increases. This affects the children, and they cannot live a happy and focused life. Meanwhile, the atmosphere in your homes appears to be different than that of our homes. We see peace in your homes, and we consider you as a role model. Tell us, how can we find this contentment? That's the worldly people that we see around. His Holiness said that we should not feel, we should not suffer from any inferiority complex. So these worldly people that we see around, and we feel, they are leading a better life. And ours, Islamic life, Quranic principle that we are asked to be established, that they are inferior to that. His Holiness is saying these worldly people, their own perception of us is quite different from the way we perceive them. They perceive us as leading a contented, peaceful, and happy life, and they are envying us. And so, but it is very important that His Holiness has brought in this dimension to the discourse, because nowadays, due to globalization, information explosion, the internet, the social media, the celebrity culture, and a whole lot of things have been brought down to our part of the world. For instance, particularly from the Western lifestyle, it has been globalized, and so most of people in this part of the world, they look at these people on the internet, social media, they are leading successful life and advanced life. Whereas in some instances, many people want to copy them. They want to imitate. They want to have that kind of life. And these are the people we see that to show the evidence that they are actually not experiencing a happy and peaceful life, particularly in their marriages, is that after sometimes they announce marriage with their celebrities, for example. After a few months, you see announcement of a breakup, divorce, and so on. So we have a lot of single mothers, baby mamas, and so on. So these people, they don't have something genuine to show us and to give us. We are to give them. And so His Holiness is saying that these people, they are in the position of asking us to show them direction, to lead a happy and peaceful and contented life. That's why His Holiness said, they will say, tell us, how can we find this contentment? He therefore said, this is the question others should be asking you. Then you should tell them that they are forgetful of the purpose for which Allah the Exalted created humanity. Neither men nor women are fulfilling this purpose, which is the worship of God and the carrying out of good and righteous deeds. Indeed, you will find this practice only in the true Islam.
MashaAllah. That's quite an extensive one. And here, His Holiness, may Allah be his helper, has just brought out one hadith that actually all husbands should try to emulate. The hadith says, Uzur Anwar relates an hadith that a husband is rewarded even for putting a morsel of food in his wife's mouth in order to seek Allah's pleasure. In order to seek Allah's pleasure. The significance here is not of simply feeding a morsel of food, but denotes nurturing one's wife and children and fulfilling their needs. It is the duty of a man to undertake the responsibilities of his family. If he undertakes this obligation with the intent of fulfilling his wife's rights, who leaves her parents' home for him, and to fulfill his children's rights, because Allah, the Exalted, has placed the responsibility on him, and he fulfills it for Allah's sake. Fulfill this obligation becomes a reward for him. His Holiness statement is born out of the ego of some men. They find it belittling. How do I put food in her mouth? But he has gone extensive by saying it's not just that feeding of muscle, but fulfilling your obligation of nurturing, of taking care, making provision for that wife and your children for the sake of seeking Allah's pleasure. So there is an undertone there. The undertone is you and your wife, come on, do your duty after providing the food. Let her enjoy your companionship. Let that be that joy, that love and understanding.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so you feed her and of course abide by ensuring that you also make provision for your children with the intent of seeking Allah's pleasure, not for any amorous things or just to do it just for celebrity's sake, for people to put you on social media. No. So this is actually very, very good for us to imbibe and for us to practice. Mukarram Sahib, if you are to ask some husbands who have been married for, let me say, decades, they may not be able to cite a day that they fed their wife.
In terms of even giving practicality
to this particular hadith.
And in fact, it reminds me, more than a decade ago, I was, I visited one of Islamic scholars where in part of the country.
Okay. Yeah.
And so while it was, we're eating together, I quoted this particular hadith. We're just joking as we were having a dinner, and he said, this hadith, we cannot quote it for our wives.
Why?
Because we have not quoted it. We have not let them know this hadith, and they are proving, big
like this.
If they should know this hadith,
so they will go wings.
Absolutely. So we just like. But the fact is that what is important is that the dimension of the meaning which His Holiness has explained here, that it's not just merely putting a morsel of food in a spoon and feeding the wife directly. Of course, that is the literal meaning of the hadith. But most important is that making sure that you provide the necessary things for your wives and children at home as a way of fulfilling your responsibility and also to win the pleasure of Almighty Allah. I think that is quite a key. MashaAllah. Dear viewers, this is Domestic Issues and Their Solutions, a book written, a book that compiles the pronouncements and guidance of Hazrat Mirza Masroor Ahmadi, worldwide head of the Ahmadiyya Muslim community, to address the challenges that married couples are facing across the world, providing solutions to them based on Islamic teachings. On this show, we engage in lively review of this book to unpack these blessings, this guidance for your benefit. Mr. Abbas, taking it further, His Holiness, may Allah be his helper, said that doing so is also a form of worship. If every Ahmadi has this mindset, the present-day family conflict, argument, and estrangement caused by trivial matters can be avoided. A wife will have a reward when she appreciates her responsibilities of serving her husband and honors his rights, and does so for the sake of Allah, the exalted. The holy prophets, peace and blessings of Allah be on him, told both parties that if they followed this for the sake of attaining the pleasure of Allah the exalted, their acts will be a form of worship, and they will be rewarded. These matters should be pondered over. It is these small matters that can make some homes resemble paradise. That's it. Straightforward, straight to the facts, clear enough for everyone. It conceptualizes marital relationship as a form of worship when it is done conscientiously, that I am fulfilling my duties, my responsibilities towards my wife, and she is doing the same thing, and that we are fulfilling this as a way of, serving God, pleasing Allah the Almighty. Then Allah rewards with a kind of a paradisical experience at home. That is great. It's a vision of everyone.
Yes,
and
yes.
All that remains is for us to practice it.
And that takes us to page 39, of course, referring to where the husband and wife have been described as garments for each other. And His Holiness says, last Friday, I briefly mentioned matters pertaining to relationship between husband and wife, and how in some situations, due to mutual disagreements, neither desist from hurling abuse at the other. And I mentioned that Allah the Exalted dislikes this enormously. Allah the Exalted has thus drawn attention of both husband and wife to their respective obligations. Starting from the concept of husband and wife being garments for each other, we would want to ask, what does a garment do? Or what's the function of a garment? For us to really grasp that fully, remove your garment. What you see is nakedness. So, garment covers our nakedness. If we are to relate it, the faults in us are our nakedness, things we don't want people to see. So, if the husband is a garment to the wife, it means he has the role of covering up her weaknesses,
and that's
her
exactly
faults. And that's exactly the ditto, the husband to cover up all the faults and weaknesses of the wife. It is even in this process that one of the qualities, one of the names or attributes of Almighty Allah as Sattar is to be displayed by us, because the veiler of things, who covers up our faults, who does not expose our weaknesses. If, like, somebody who forgives somebody, he has seen what we have done wrongly, we will just put it aside. So the same thing should be between husband and wife. They should not be cursing themselves, as he has mentioned here. Why do you have to curse your spouse? Somebody, at the end of the day, you still come together. So for us to really imbibe and for us to really have a paradise home, paradisical home, for us to have a harmonious home, a joyful home, we are to respect ourselves by ensuring we do not hurl abuses and curses on ourselves. Now, His Holiness now continues, quoting Quran chapter 2, verse 188, where it says, Hunna libasu lakum wa antum libasu lahun, meaning they are a garment for you and you are a garment for them. Quran chapter 2, verse 188. That is, it is the responsibility of both to cover each other's faults. The Holy Quran expands the uses of garment as a source of covering nakedness. Secondly, as a source of embellishment. And thirdly, as a protection from hot and cold weather. Three distinct functions of garment. And this is what we should be to our spouses.
Absolutely, Mr. Abbas Saib, and that's quite insightful. Fine, because we are actually running out of time now. If we can just quickly go through this paragraph here, where His Holiness, may Allah be his helper, declared that, thus, when a man and a woman commit themselves to the union of marriage in accordance with a pact, their utmost effort should be to accept each other and also cover each other's shortcomings. Neither men nor women should become enraged over small matters. Mutual relationship of an Ahmadi married couple should enhance their beauty, and such beauty should radiate from each Ahmadi couple so that they become exemplary for others. This is straightforward and discernible by all. Mr. Abbas Saib, if we can just have your final thoughts as brief as possible that we can, before we sign
The
out.
final statement will just be, please forgive ourselves. Let's tolerate ourselves. Stop abusing one another. Rather, let us be praying for one another. That is what will make us live a kind of harmonious life on this earth.
Absolutely. Mr. Abbas Saib, Jazakallah khairan for being part of the show today. It has been quite an interesting show with you. Mashallah, mashallah. Cherished viewers, it has been a great time on the show today, exploring the guidance contained in the book, Domestic Issues and Their Solutions. A whole lot of, advice, blessed guidance have been explored as given by His Holiness Hazrat Mirza Masroor Ahmad. May Allah continue to be his helper, the worldwide head of the Ahmadiyya Muslim community. If you have any question or comment, you can always reach us via africa@mta.tv. Until next time, when domestic issues and their solutions will be coming your way by the grace of Allah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
أنت الذي حزت الرضا أنت المزكي للورى قدنا إلى نبع الصفا من بيتك المعمور